feast your eyes on my huge forehead.
Yeah, that's kind
It's
of
huge. It's 5 fingers huge.
maybe it's the receding hairline.
And then the moment you put the cap on, you're never gonna see it again.
Yeah.
So
Have
scarcity.
you seen Tommy's receding hairline?
No, 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 no. I'm the focus today.
That's fine.
Is it a good idea to name call him like that?
I'm gonna do it
You know
because
what? No, no. Tommy, your hair is
it's
very little. You have very little
no,
hair.
it's Vegeta. It's
It's
literally
Vegeta. Emotional damage moment.
it's fine.
Bro.
We're just gonna shame him off be like that. But anyway, yeah. So welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Cast. I'm your host Marco, and actually, this is basically the same recording session as the previous episode I uploaded. And you notice Hanbin actually passed away in the middle of recording, so
I hate how I
quick,
misinterpreted
quick
pass away.
respect for him, and then yeah, yeah.
Silence for a minute, etc.
Nah, it's fine. He didn't die. Don't worry about it. But yeah, this one is a bit more of another off-topic episode. We're not talking about CF anymore, although the guest is similar. And I think you'll find a lot of context if you do watch the previous episode because we talked a lot about how my Reformed confession has a lot of influence on a bunch of these guys and gals. I'm not misogynistic. Don't worry about it. Um, but yeah, the reason I actually make this episode today is because our friend Calvin Chia made an episode. No, first of all, he's doing his thesis paper, I think, on impressions of Reformed churches in KL, in Kuala Lumpur. And he made an interview episode where he interviews one of his friend candidly um, about their visitation to a particular Reformed church, which I'm not gonna name drop yet. We'll talk about it if we get there. And also, I got two books in front of me right now. One is something called More Calvinistic Than Calvin, written by four elders or bishops from the Malaysian Methodist sphere, as well as this book by a good friend of mine and a pastor, Pastor Poh Boon-Sing, on the Ecumenical Agenda. Basically, to give a brief context, Reformed theology has kind of caught a little bit of fire, right? It has a bit of a boogeyman kind of stories around it. It has people kind of up on their heels, like what to do with these Reformed theologians and whatever. But then I guess there's another spectrum where people just don't know about them at all. So what Calvin did in the episode was he was asking his friend what are their impressions of people with Reformed theology or Reformed theology, period, right? The theology itself. So I guess I'm going to do something similar from a different perspective. Basically, I've worked with you guys a lot. And how to say, I'm going to ask you guys what are your impressions of my theology, which is Reformed, and then me as a Reformed person, what are the impressions that I give you as someone who believes in, Reformed doctrines and so on and so forth. But yeah, so how about this time in this episode, I'll you introduce yourself, um, but in context of your theology when you met me, I guess. So how about Sinkang this time you start?
Wait, my theology when I first met you.
Yes, your particular confession or your particular. It could be that you mentioned earlier you're not really looking too deep into it or anything
Right,
along that line.
right. I would say I kind of got myself stuck at the basic doctrine, like first level.
Right.
Yeah,
Would you say you you know your basics and fundamentals like your Christology,
yeah,
your hypostatic union, maybe your belief in Jesus two natures,
yeah,
divine
yeah.
and okay, that's good. Trinitarian doctrines, you got them down.
Yes.
Okay, so you got the basics, but which area are you not sure on? Maybe things like sacraments.
Uh, sacraments and uh whether and post millennium, pre
Oh,
millennium.
right, yeah, I do talk about that quite often. Okay, okay, interesting. All right,
I did not know that was a thing until you brought it.
right, okay, interesting. All right. What about you know what? Then it'll be a good way to perhaps introduce yourself this way. Then, what is maybe one peculiar thing you notice about my theology when you met me, or whenever the theology comes up? Then. Grace, do you have any particular impression?
Mm, I'll be honest, I really don't. Just now, 90% of the terms you mentioned, I also don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, but that gives us an idea of theologically
mm,
how much you're deep into it,
yeah,
right? Okay.
just the basics, I would say.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Was there anything peculiar? Because I've taught in our fellowship quite a while. You've
Mm.
seen me teach quite a while. Was there anything peculiar you noticed when I was teaching?
I don't think I know enough to determine like
Right.
the peculiar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. What about you, Zach?
Okay, you know earlier when you said that the a lot of churches are like banding together and be like, oh, what are we gonna do about these Calvinists? What are we, like kind of like witches just springing out of nowhere.
Right.
Speak for yourself, okay? Like I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but like in my circle, being a Calvinist is like kind of cool.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
seriously, it's like you just get that sense of superiority. It's like you just suddenly just
That's interesting.
put on a suit, did your hair, have a Rolex on, and just like and you're like classically better than everybody Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you know
Sadly,
what? I vibe to. I
yeah.
vibe to.
Which sadly, that's how a lot of new Calvinists feels. Probably
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
they
like it's like they just feel doctrinally superior.
right.
And you
Well,
know what? When you open up your mouth and when you start to speak theology, actually there is that assert assertion of dominance. Because let's
right.
be real, nobody's really gonna argue against you. No,
Right. Which
like
is
nobody
interesting.
can contend with you
That's interesting. Okay.
currently.
Are we talking personally or are we talking generally?
You're asking for my impressions of your theology, right?
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Okay,
Stay on
okay.
topic,
Sorry,
Marco.
sorry. I'm as
Yeah.
someone who cares about context. I was not paying attention to my own context. Anyway, um, no, but that's funny. I hope I don't give that impression
Mm-mm,
to you
mm-mm,
guys.
mm-mm. When it comes to experiences and reality, that is when everybody suddenly can contend with you. But when it comes to the expansion of the basics, baptizing of children,
Right.
wearing of hats,
Okay.
and head coverings over
I
prayer, um, you name it. When it comes to expanding on top of the basics of Christology and all and this and that, yeah, I would say that you are usually the dominant
right.
voice.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, which is fair because I am trained in that.
Mm,
It's not a proud thing, hopefully, because it's kind of the same with you telling me, "Oh, I grew up playing piano
yeah,
my whole life." I should expect you to be generally better than most people,
yeah.
right? So hopefully that's kind of the same.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but when it came to impressions of Reformed theology, you bore the Reformed badge on your heart pretty proudly.
right,
So there was it was pretty clear to me that you were Reformed and you had that reputation to go with you. So that was the impression.
right. Okay, that's very interesting. All right,
Yes.
so I guess to give a bit more context, right? I am reformed. I'm a particular kind of reform. I'm
Mm.
Dutch reformed, and even worse. So there are things that would disqualify me, or a lot of fellow reform would even sneer at me for, which is also the fact that I'm post millennial, theonomic, reconstructionist, and all those things. But again, I kind of
Wait, you're
actually
post millennial too? I never knew.
okay. So
Holy
I guess
cow.
I guess that's a funny thing too. But yeah, so here's the funny thing, right? I kind of don't beat people with a cudgel over it, right?
Mm.
I don't be like, oh, you're not post millennial. I can prove my post millennialism. You can prove your eschatology, and then beat you over the head with it. But I was hoping also that I don't come off as coy.
Ah,
Right.
nah.
It's like people come up and say, "What's your theology?" or what flavor, what brand of Christian you are?" And I'll be like, whatever flavor you like, baby." But yeah, which sometimes I get that kind of feeling with people because I'm just kind of like, what church you go to, what do you
Yeah.
believe about this topic and that topic, and they're just like, uh, I think this is right. What do you think? I'm like, you didn't answer my question, but all right. Um, so okay, here's the thing, right? One of my concern in Calvin's video, so I'm bringing him back to the video Calvin made, was the fact that Reformed theology kind of gets a bad rep, usually from a couple of bad individuals, a couple of bad churches. But here's the thing: every theology, every denomination has that. Right? We're not gonna pretend Benny Hinn is not applied on Pentecostal,
Guilty.
right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I would be guilty if I meet Pentecostals, people who straight up say I'm Pentecostal, I'm charismatic, and my only ever impression of you is Benny Hinn. Toss your white jacket, people fall over, and you believe people should donate,
Yeah.
billion dollar
$1,000. Oh
seed,
yeah.
right?
In order to receive this
Right.
healing.
Yeah. So I feel that here's the thing, kind of like Reformed Christianity in Malaysia, kind of gets treated partially
Mm.
that way. We get you know, the ugly sister kind of treatment. Oh, that's the bad side of Protestantism.
Mm.
It's too bad that they literally were a big part of the movement, but we kind of don't want to have anything to do with them anymore. So I'm hoping to kind of straighten that a little bit, but I'm also open to scrutiny if any of you have for me, right? Because I'm kind of like uh, the representative person who is openly reformed in our circle, outside of a few more.
Mm.
But okay, let me. How about I expand the vision first? So enough about me first. I'll ask you: have you ever encountered Reformed theology, the theology itself, or a Reformed person before in your life? And what is your first impression in those episodes? So maybe,
Would you like me to be a bit prophetic right now? I'm gonna pull a charismatic.
sure.
Okay.
I'll
It's a
let you
yes,
start.
yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So that's the. I'll stone you after this if you're wrong. Okay,
Bang.
you're one off. Right.
One
So you start. You start first, so it's safe.
goodness. Okay, okay. Have I encountered any reformers or
People who claim to be reformed,
claim to be
or
reformed?
even reformed theology. Period. Like
Reformed
you've
theology
run
period.
across the book, the pastor online, the YouTube sermon online, any of those.
I have, uh, by YouTube, there are some big reform preachers. In fact, with the rise of Western politics, and global issues, a lot of the conservatives actually
Right.
hail reform theologies online, and as a result, it just kind of stumbles into my YouTube recommended. So big names, Paul Washer,
Uh huh.
what's the other guy's name?
Body Balkan
Volley
maybe.
Bockham is
Right.
a big one as well. There's one more. Um,
What would be his name?
Goodness, very little hair,
Very little hair,
white hair, spectacles.
white hair.
Yes, I
Is it
can't
is
remember.
it John MacArthur?
Oh my god, you
It's
got
John
it, you
MacArthur.
got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got it. That's the one.
Funny. Okay.
Three of it I encountered. Those are the three biggest reform pastors that has been circling my feed.
Right.
And you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of many times the appeal is, what's it called? How applicable it is to reality.
Right.
Because many times, I'm gonna confess this, in charismaticism, many times it's also kind of in the clouds. Yeah,
Okay.
you want to seek God, you gotta pray more, you gotta
So
do
this
this more, fast more, this that.
this is very interesting
Yes,
because one of the big criticism kind
yes.
of launched to Reformed theology
Mm.
is how far in the heads they are. They're kind of up in their ivory tower,
Mm.
theologizing, pontificating.
Oh yeah,
But your appeal, you said,
yeah.
was the
The
fact,
ones that the ones that appeared to me was actually very grounded.
yeah, the boots on the ground
Oh
type,
yeah,
right?
and the charismatic recommendations to me was all about pursuing gifts of the Holy Spirit, you know, uh, speaking to God daily,
Right, right,
all sorts of in the clouds
right, right.
things.
Yeah, yeah, actually.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, so in regards to theology specifically,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but in regards to practice, that's free real estate, I'd say, because
Right,
I'll need to see that with my own eyes. But yeah, uh, have I encountered Reformed theology before? Yes,
mm-hmm.
even before Xiamen.
Right.
I would say that it became way more relevant as I came to university because suddenly problems became more real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have
so
to face people
I
with
had
different
yeah.
denomination.
Suddenly, my own set of beliefs had to be put to the test. It became trial by fire, and you know what? Much appreciated. And there are some disagreements, and there are some loonies. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the nicest way I can put it. But yeah, you know what? yeah, even some Seventh Day Adventists coming to me and be like, "Oh, you want to make money out of Christianity?" I'm like,
Interesting.
"Yeah, I told you before." And the reply was, "I'm gonna take your money. I'm gonna take his money, her money, your father's money, your mother's money, your grandfather's money." Yeah, I was just so angry at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, okay, that's hilarious. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay, interesting. Did you run into anyone like in real life that
Oh
you
yeah,
see flesh and blood,
Flesh and
and
blood.
they like openly say I'm reformed, or at least they make you think they are one?
Only since university, and
Right,
I believe the reason is because university was actually what opened my eyes to this,
right,
to the complexity, and the traditions, you
right,
know. And then only later on, even outside of uni, only I started to encounter these people as I served outside of CF and church.
right.
Then only I started to encounter these people.
I see.
Yes,
Okay, all
but
right.
before this, no, because I'm pretty sure I was just kind of blinded to that reality.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fair. That's fair. All right. What about you, Grace?
Yeah, I guess for me, the only experience I had was also in uni. Yeah,
Right.
when I first in the CF, lah, when I first
Uh huh.
ran into some. Uh, my first impression was, I don't know, they seem very complex.
We're complicated creatures. We brood.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, just kind of
I'll fix some language for you. She means depressed
Is that
and
I
complex and depressed.
don't well, don't put words in their mouth.
Bro.
Is that what you want to say?
um,
You chastise me.
Okay, okay.
yeah.
That's very questionable, but okay. No, okay. Maybe.
He was praying for my birthday blessing.
Oh,
Okay,
I remember.
come on,
Yeah, yeah.
man, come on.
No, okay. So, but okay.
That's
Think. Uh, a different word. So complex, or is there another moniker, another descriptor
Uh,
that you can give?
it's just that sometimes they seem very knowledgeable at
Okay.
first, but later on, if you delve deeper, you can. Some of the things it's kind of like intelligence, but no common
Oh, okay,
sense.
okay.
Something
Oh,
like that.
interesting. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
unfounded theory.
So there's
Kind of,
like
yeah.
there's an intellectual front,
Yeah.
but
But
you get
there's no,
behind it.
no, there's kind of no logic to it.
Oh, okay. There's
Other-
lack
There's
of.
there's one very key distinction between you and other reformers that we have encountered specifically. Uh, Theory is only considered wisdom when it is backed with experience and backed with reason.
Right.
You know, many times a lot of reformers when they actually when they raise arguments with us, and when they, you know, try to poke holes in us, many times it is also up in the clouds.
Right.
So
It's
perhaps that,
ethereal.
yeah,
Mhm.
perhaps that's what you were referring to earlier.
Could be, yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, so um, you guys didn't explicitly say it, but I kind of draw something, right? For example, the fact that one, we're confrontive, right? We confront people a lot, because you said, oh,
yeah.
they poke holes in us, which is not, kind of not normative Christian behavior, I guess. Um, but you also said something along the lines of your first impression. Your first impression of them is their intellect,
Mm.
which is interesting. So let me reciprocate a bit. Right, a good chunk of my first impression is kind of passion in like Malaysian Christian community, who usually are Pentecostal or charismatic or anything in between. They usually talk about how in love they are with the Word of God,
Yeah.
how much they love singing, how much they love to spend time. It's kind of not different. If you ask the Reform guy, he'll say, "Well, I've been reading a lot," which is basically our way, our complex way of saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in love. I'm reading the Word every day." Basically, right? It's the the brooding guy's way of saying, I'm in love with this thing. Us. Because we can't say love. We're opposed to the word. Um, but okay, that's interesting. But what made you say the logic is kind of absent? What made you feel that way?
Just just from the conversation
Okay,
in
so
particular. Like they add up over time.
I see, I see.
Yeah,
So inconsistencies, I guess.
you kind, yeah.
So I'm assuming.
But just that person or persons in particular.
Mhm.
It's not
It's a few, right?
a few, yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
it's not like
Okay,
uh,
right.
my view on reform
Right, right, right.
theology as a
So,
whole. Yeah.
yeah, just to make sure, this is not me, right? Did I contribute to that?
Of course not. No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah. So,
No.
but this is funny. So this the other kind of opposition, which is specifically in the book, I believe, Reformed theology is very logical. In fact, one of the author of the book, I believe, Hua Yung, is the one that basically tied uh, our doctrine of definite atonement to neo-Aristotelian logic, which I'm like, okay, number one, unsubstantiated. But anyway, besides that, besides the book, um, I don't think logic. Here's the thing, right? I believe when I do come to shaman, when I do meet a lot of Malaysian Christian, although I don't think logic is missing, I think logic is not pursued. And so when I ask people, hey, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Their answers are kind of scattered. You can kind of piece them together logically, but they give different answers, and I'm like, well, where's the connection? Logic is supposed to flow, right? It's supposed to be a proposition, justification, so on and so forth. Um, so I don't think it's a bad thing. At least, well, the feeling that I get when I feel that I need to be logical in my presentation is because I genuinely want to teach people, hey, you might have the right answers, but you need to learn to piece them together well, right? You need to present them well as well. Um, so that might be one thing that I myself could even impress on other people, even if you don't get that impression on me. Now, granted, you had a different impression, which is the intellectual front with none of the logical backing. So almost no different than like a charismatic, right? It's just different words, different language, different terminology.
You make a point.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying again, I'm not saying charismatics don't have logic,
Mm.
but we're definitely yeah. I'm saying Malaysians are not trained
Yeah.
in logic, and I do you guys have logic class? Okay, and
What?
that's not a mockery.
Bro, we don't even have
Logic.
common sense class.
Yeah,
Logic.
logic is within classical curriculum.
Oh.
So informal logic,
They try to teach us critical thinking,
yeah, which
but
is
the problem is that they don't really make us practice it. They just teach us the theory of critical thinking.
yeah, which all the theories are secular humanist
Oh
theories.
yeah.
So
So we learn about the fallacies. We learn
yeah,
about
which
this
is
and that.
true. But here's the thing:
Yeah.
you don't learn about the fallacies and the laws of logic from a Christian founding.
Mm.
Right? The fact that the thinkers when they form the laws of logic, when they figure them out, they're all deeply Christian in their epistemology, in their philosophy, and a good chunk of them are reformed because, as one famous reformed theologian said, preaching is logic on fire. And so, I think it is not a bad thing the fact that
It's
we
pretty base though.
yeah
Like that aged so well. That statement
right,
aged so well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm sure there's passion, I'm sure there's emotion and dialogue and pathos and all those things. But if it's not logical, then it's not, you would throw the guy off the pulpit because it's like we don't want that. That's illogical, and because if it's illogical, we firmly believe it's not conforming to God's thoughts. And so we do want to conform to God's own thoughts, which are logical. So, okay, so that's both of you. Jinkang, what about yourself?
I'm glad that I'm the last one. I have many things to think about.
Okay.
Uh, okay. Um. But interestingly, I have encountered uh reform people that who confess to be reformed uh on during my high school times
Okay.
where the my advisor in the high school's fellowship it goes to a Chinese Reformed church.
Oh, okay.
The way he prays is every time he begins and he ends, he starts and ends with confession of the gospel, but it's a more encouraging and more energetic
Oh, okay.
and more
A lot less deliver me from the darkness, right?
yeah, less of that because
Bro, remember they were praying for food.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah.
do have a
my advisor do know, like, he has a vision in mind that the message of the fellowship itself is gonna target to non-Christians. That's the reason he's
Okay,
been doing that.
I see.
But apart from that, I have been uh, also watching video clips of Chinese Reform sermons during my high school days.
Right. So, for example, like Stephen Tong.
Yes.
Is there anyone else?
Uncle, do you know Chinese?
I don't.
Oh.
That's yeah.
So it's
And
basically just him.
oh, okay.
But he does also bring the impression of being intellectual because he does study a lot and he's being very, very logical, which is very appealing to those who really want to know, okay, how does this conform to God's
Don the
thoughts?
suit and tie,
Yeah.
Rolex,
Yeah.
BMW car.
But
Classy.
but I think yeah, so definitely the culture creates that. The fact that uh just by doing, right, the operation of it, it's almost on autopilot. Obviously it's not autopilot because logic is not supposed to be, but there is an active effort to make things intellectually flow. So so now here's the thing, right? So let me turn the tables. Do you guys think if it's too intellectual, too logical, I'm not imputing those words on you, but do you guys often feel that reform people are too much of those things, too logical, too intellectual, not spiritual enough, not sympathetic enough, not caring about emotions, or maybe even, you know, detached from day to day living? So I'm wondering if you get that impression.
I'd allow them to think for a little longer, so perhaps I'll go first.
Sure, sure.
All right. I would actually deduce that to just being people in general.
Okay, so it's not unique reform.
I would not hold that accusation towards reformers.
No,
Why?
okay,
It's very simple. I love badminton. Guess what? I'm not really gonna invest my time into football.
right, right.
Okay.
That's fair.
If I'm good at the guitar, guess what? I prefer to play the guitar over reading a book.
Right,
So you know what? And if you love, and if that intellectual spike tickles your fancy, guess what? You ain't gonna pick up a guitar, or you ain't gonna invest too much time into the arts.
right,
So it's actually only, uh, it's actually only through how to say, meeting so many other perspectives, seeing the beauty in so many other perspectives.
right.
Only was there a hunger that was uh that was introduced to me, because my background, even like we can see this even with charismatics. Let's be real, like a lot of us burst into songs, and by
Right,
the way, I still can,
right, right.
but
Yeah,
like uh songs with that are not backed up with truth is not worship.
yeah.
You know, worship is in spirit and in truth.
Right.
I got the spirit part down, but like the truth part was lacking for me.
Mhm.
And you know what? Yeah, I always thought it was one or the other. I really always thought it was one or the other. And you know what? Studying the Psalms, hanging out with you guys. Yeah, you know what? Life is both.
Yeah.
We are poets
Warriors.
and warriors at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. So, that's funny. Let me detour a little
yeah,
bit on
yeah.
those ideas,
Okay.
right? One funny quote I think I found online was that Calvinists believe that God gave us bodies just so that we can walk our brains to church.
For real?
Yeah. And so the meme basically is, oh, the body is useless other than carrying our brains. Our,
I've heard something along those lines.
yeah.
Like a lot of self-loathing though.
Right, but in the sense of when I go to church and I worship, the joining of worship, we don't express, we don't raise our hand, we don't jump,
They worship with brains.
we don't kneel. It's all here. The
You get some sick line in the poem dropped, and then you're like, oh.
yeah, but only intellectually. So we were just like, right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or worse yet, the preacher drops a hard line, and we're just hoping that everyone else caught that.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope my neighbor really catches that one. That one was for him. Yeah, because the Bible is a book talking about other people's sin, never yours, as one atheist used to say. Yeah, but anyway, um, here's the thing. I also grow an appreciation, obviously, because I run into people like you guys. So um, and I hope when I do meet you guys, I didn't come off as that guy who's like, oh, I'm all intellect.
Yo, I thought you were straight up evil when I first met you.
Okay, that's
Cause you were like, don't care about them. Bye. You were like the most willing to cut people off. But then when it came to my background in charismatism, like it's a lot of love. It's a lot of going for the leaving the 99. It's a lot
sure,
of
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, which um, you know, the context might be a little bit more generous than
Oh
you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
presented,
yeah, yeah.
but usually it's because when I, you know, assess the scene in Malaysia,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of people pleasing, and so there's
Yes.
always a, what about this guy's feeling? What about that girl's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
feeling? And I'm like,
And then you explained yourself, and I was like, this is reasonable.
yeah, yeah.
It was never a win. You were always gonna lose that battle anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
It's yeah,
unwise.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want to please everyone. Well,
Yeah.
um, the logical conclusion is you're
You
gonna offend
you
everyone.
please nobody. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna please nobody. You're gonna likely offend everyone,
Oh yeah.
right? So, that's when if I see people who are too considerate of things I don't find meaningful, right? It's like, oh, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
Um, does God actually want you to care about those things?
Yeah.
He might, but not higher than,
Oh yeah.
let's say, ethics or justice or anything along.
James is a reformer, right? Lutheran.
He's
Reform.
Lutheran. He's not Reformed.
Not reform.
Categorically, yes.
Okay. Uh, he was the first more traditional Christian that
Right.
I encountered in the CF.
Uh huh.
And then you were like you were the Danzo of the third Hokage. Yeah.
Like the
So yeah, the
Izana.
shadow, yeah, the guy who's killing people in the background.
Yeah,
So that's why I just like straight up thought you were evil at first impression.
yeah.
Yeah.
I that's unfortunate. I did.
And then you're like gonna roll up your sleeve and have like a whole a sleeve full of eyes.
Yeah. I have the shotting
Oh,
guns,
shotgun guns, yes.
the I collect. But it is hilarious. I did at the time feel that I was that guy
Oh yeah.
who had to say all the things people didn't like to say. Now again, I didn't want to be known
Yeah.
as that guy, but if I feel the need, I will say it.
Mm.
Not because I get some kind of high from being a jerk, right? It's because I believe this needs to be said. And right, it's sometimes people are like, I don't know if I should say that, and I'm like, okay, I'll say it for you. And that's kind of my way of showing. I'll cover this one for you. It's actually a way for me to care. So, but yeah, I might come off as evil
But
because
that was so cool though. Like, yeah. Think about it.
yeah,
Calling you the Danzo.
but it's like yeah. The impression is, oh, I come to kill, to kind of kill the mood,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of say no.
yeah.
It's like, oh, if your plans go all the way up to my ear, it's because they all want to say no, but they can't say it.
Yeah.
So let me say it for you. Yeah, but hopefully that's not the case.
It wasn't.
Right.
It was a shock at the time, but upon giving upon letting you cook, yeah, yeah. I guess we're friends now.
Yeah.
We're friends now. We're friends now.
That's good. Yeah. Boom. Right.
No,
So
no, no.
yeah. Not yet. Not yet. Do you guys have any comments on that? Like,
Luckily, my first impression on Marco isn't this. It's more of a more friendly approach. Yeah.
are you sure about that?
The first time I met you is literally at department recruitment, and you said,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
hospitality is a must.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what made me like, oh, this guy's a good guy. Yeah. He's being nice to people.
Right.
And then during my mark, oh, attacks.
Oh yeah. What? Remind me what happened during Mamak that night?
You were talking with another person
Uh-huh.
on the table. I just happened to sit at the corner
Uh-huh.
around you, and then you were talking about how pastors in Malaysia gets overpaid.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a funny contrast. Was presenting on hospitality and how hospitality was not a luxury; it was a necessity. And then the mamak right after, I basically said, Malaysian pastors get paid too much for how much they're actually working or doing all those things. So that's hilarious. You like the guy that can do you.
But over the days,
both.
I realized that you are more of a fatherly figure. Like in my mind, like what a father should do is like you know what is right and wrong. Like you see this kid did something wrong, and he's like begging for mercy or like please spare me from punishment, but you're like, no, it's for your good. Punish straight up. Goes ahead.
I don't spare the rod, but the rod is for you. It is to transform. So- but
Yeah.
okay.
He can call you daddy.
But and here's another thing, right? You brought it up. He brought it up. The fact that I'm actually not stuck up, and I hope I didn't give that vibe, because we were talking about the kind of reform people who all they
That's the
talk
thing.
about.
We met stuck up.
You sorry?
We met stuck
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
Then suddenly we compared it and we were like, this guy is fine.
Right. Okay.
This guy is pretty okay. Yeah.
Right. So this okay. I didn't want to do too much comparative work, but okay. But you met reform people who were stuck up, who are either up in their own head, had a intellectual upfront, and maybe the only thing they ever talk about is one thing, which usually is like gospel, gospel. And by what they mean by gospel is atonement, atonement. Jesus died for your sins. It's always that. Um, but I'm glad that I had opportunities, and this is how I say I keep humble, right? The fact that the opportunities were given to me to talk about something else. Because guess what? If I just have all the opportunities to just evangelize, then I would look somewhat not much different from those kind of people. But I did have opportunities to talk about music, talk about arts, to talk about hospitality, and I'm kind of glad those were actually the first impressions on a lot of you, because I don't come off as that guy who can only talk about one thing, which is to say, historically, reformers should actually look like that. Because reformers back then used to be head of states, judges, kings, and just, lawyers, uh, adjudicators, every sphere of life, right? Whatever sphere of life, they show mastery, they show skill in that particular
They
area.
show understanding. They show wisdom.
Yeah. And again, it's sadly the case that the impression now is, oh, they beat people over the cudgel with their knowledge, and usually it's actually very narrow knowledge. So, thank God that wasn't the case for a good chunk of you. Now, what's funny is, seems like the rambunctiousness kind of stayed, right? Because you notice I was kind of dismissive of people. You notice, even though I was kind, I was ready to say, pretty broad brush discriminating statements. So that's pretty hilarious. Did you maybe have personal impressions of me? Because I don't even remember our first few interactions together.
I also don't actually, but one thing that I don't know, it just kind of just struck the one of the first words that came to mind. Like I think when I first heard you speak in the CF, I don't remember. Just like just like God given, like the
Okay.
knowledge and everything. It's just like
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
so at
I
least
quite admired that.
right. So
Yeah.
at least it feels different.
Yeah, it feels different,
Uh-huh.
and it was not like um, I don't know, pretentious or
Okay.
anything. Yeah,
I'm glad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Notice how she said that you didn't speak to her directly. So your reputation for speaking to women is still.
Yeah. I know. I'll work on it. Don't worry about it. Nah, but no. But yeah. So I mean, for a lot of our first encounters, it is like third hand. You heard me make a comment about a decision. You heard me teach. You heard me present a topic and whatnot. But what I like is the fact that, yeah, there was a contrast. There is the kind of reform person who is very stereotypical, and sadly they kind of, you know become a self-fulfilling prophecy. They propagate this notion that we're the boogeyman. We want to pummel you with correct quote unquote theology. We want to pummel you in your practice, so on and so forth. So, uh, and here's the thing, right? Some of you might not believe it. I probably would fall under that category a few years back. Now I can't say for certain, right? But I can see myself in a good chunk of those stereotypes, and that's why I kind of hate them. Right? I hate the stereotypes because I saw a lot of my immature self in those things. I see someone do something wrong. My first inclination is always to immediately trace all the logic that can shut him down or that can prove him wrong. Which again could be a strength, could be a detriment. I don't think it's unloving to do that because you will need to do that at some point, right? Matter of fact, sometimes you guys hear an error, you can't respond to it immediately. You guys ask me, "Hey, I'm hearing this. I feel like something's wrong. Could you maybe elaborate or like tell me what the Bible says so that we can have more understanding?" Right? So I actually take it as a strength. Now again, not under control, it's gonna go haywire. It's gonna be me pummeling everyone with a cudgel. So I'm glad that's not the case. But it is fair to say, yeah, that is quite prevalent, maybe even in reform camps, that the the intellectual front, the pummeling, and all those things. So okay, was that all the impressions you had?
No, I want to give a disclaimer or a side note that I actually don't have a stereotype on reform
Right, right, because you didn't encounter much of it
because I encountered three different reform
already.
people throughout my life. Like that, I meet this reform person. Okay, he's a type. He has his own way of doing. I meet this person. He has his own way of doing.
Okay,
Okay, Marco,
So
take
not really a stereotype.
realize how my prophecy is true.
yeah, yeah.
Therefore, I am a prophet.
Wait a minute.
Ah,
Do we specify do we specify before university? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll let
Appeal to logic.
I'll let you slip on this one. Don't worry about it. Okay. Moving on though. So if you guys gave a negative or a positive, I want you to give the opposite of that. So you gave somewhat of a positive, right? You said, "Oh, I like the logic. They come off as boots on the ground." Do you see any potential damage inherent, right? Not just like, oh, some weirdos believe in it. No, like, do you see inherent damage or just negative features within reform theology or reform people and so on and so forth?
I've started to form like this little narrative in my head where oh, if you want to instill rules, you call the Catholics. If you want to instill, if you want to exercise demon, if you want to pray over matters, you call the charismatics. If you want to uh, if you want to win, if you want to conquer, you call the Presbyterians.
Okay, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
So whether or not the opposite about whether I think it can be harmful, uh, I don't believe so unless that's all the perspective that we're allowed to get.
all right.
The greatest beauty of having so many denominations is actually uh, just how the many cultures and traditions uh, and means of worship was captured and preserved.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of it is there, and I'm not here to say that any of it's false or yeah, and I'm not here to argue. But
Right.
yeah, I don't actually see any of it being harmful unless that's all that we get.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's true because as limited creatures,
Oh yeah.
pure does look slightly different, and we have cultural upbringing and all those things, right? Which are actually not bad. We're told in Revelation, all the nations will gather, and we're assuming they have different tributaries to give,
Mm.
and it's the case too with churches. A pure quote unquote Reformed church in Dutch would look different from a pure Reformed church in
Mm.
Indonesia
Yeah.
and all
This
those
one,
places.
I'm glad you actually asked because like literally just like 2 or 3 days ago, a cousin from that I never knew existed. That I met, and then my aunt just yeah, my aunt just asked. For some reason, the topic came on Christianity, and the guy's biggest objection was about how Christianity has so many denominations,
Right, and that's as if
and that is his reason as to why it's not true because even Christians don't agree.
right, right,
And it made me think. I was like, wait a minute, life is a bit too complex for everybody to agree.
yeah, yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
isn't that the very reason for why it's true?
Yeah.
Because this is evidence of the many ages and the many practices and the many traditions, cultures
Yeah.
that was captured and essentially beautified with Christ.
Right.
and preserve until today.
Right. Isn't it hilarious, right?
Yeah.
If you're an atheist,
Yeah.
you believe that there should not be a reason that the amoeba, the single cell amoeba, should be that diverse.
Yeah.
They should just replicate as many as possible until they're just so uniform, they're one ultimate
Yeah.
organism.
And
But
then when you're a believer, you're like, wait a minute, kind of cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, right? Because diversity doesn't quote unquote serve a utilitarian purpose. It
Yeah.
doesn't serve any. It's purely beauty.
Mm.
But here's the thing: there's no such thing as beauty if you're not a Christian. There's no God. Everything's time, chance, matter, motion. What is beauty? What is beautiful? It's neurons firing in your brain. But it's hilarious that the guy literally says, "Oh, there's too many of it, therefore it can't be
Mm.
true." But that's literally false for anything else.
No, no,
There's,
I'm just gonna say I feel like a reformer right now, like suit and tie, Rolex watch. Yo, I'm classy. Dude, I'm telling you, that wave of superiority. I was like, you know what? I got it good. Serious. I was like, huh,
if you
I
if
see
you,
beauty.
if you're a Christian, you should be glad because you
Yeah.
can justify beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, huh.
Yeah, the atheist has to sit and believe
Yeah.
that it's just chemicals and electro waves firing.
It made that odd amount of sense. I was like, huh, I got it good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
because you grew up in a Christian household.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So but anyway, again, despite apart from reform and whatnot,
Yes.
so you don't see necessarily an inherent damage to it. So I hope
Mm.
the kind of same charity can be extended to you because coming from my camp, I'll be honest, right? I already see when I was younger, when I was more immature, I see most other denominations with the errors. I associate them immediately with the errors they bring. I don't necessarily see them with the values they bring into the kingdom because I remember how I felt when someone said, "Oh, we Presbyterians can learn how to pray from the charismatic," and in my heart, I just straight up go, "No, no, there's nothing for me to learn from them because I pray perfectly fine." Um, but I do acknowledge that my prayer was kind of drab back then. So, uh, in that sense, I can grow. I can, share a prayer meeting with charismatics and actually learn. I don't have to be stuck up and say there's nothing I can even learn from these from these insects. But but yeah, um, again, not true. And maybe for other people who are reformed, that notion was immediately shattered for me, and I hope it is quickly shattered if other people hold to that, right? So I was wondering if uh, you guys have okay, maybe for you, since you mentioned kind of the negative one, they had like an intellectual front and all that. Do you notice a good thing that's an inherent feature of reform people or reform theology?
Imagine if she just says the intellectual front. That would be like,
That would be around, yeah. But I think it will make a good case. But yeah, do you have any?
I was gonna say something like that.
Yeah, but anything comes to mind?
Eh,
If not, it's fine.
yeah.
Nah, that's fine. So okay,
Let's just
feel free to come back in if he's on.
yeah.
let's just assume she said intellectual front.
I don't.
You can.
There's no okay, but give me your case. Do you see any? Your first presentation was actually positive,
Yeah.
right? So do you see a negative inclination in reform theology and reform people?
All right, here. My first impression on no, my first deep impression on reform is how it is interpreted or defined as something like burning gold, something like refinement,
Uh-huh.
something like translated in Chinese, going back to the right track.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But during that period when I was listening to sermons by reformed pastors, because they have the responsibility of bringing out the word and saying it to the audience at the congregation. They I was the part of where I need more emotional care is kind of neglected.
Right.
Like for example, when I go to the fellowship at high school, um, the advisors didn't really ask much on my personal life.
Right.
The group leaders did. They did a great job about
Right.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically.
So it is his main complaint is they didn't ask me about my feelings. But then if what's it called? If you come to a lot of charismatic churches is how are your feelings?
Yeah. How do you
How
feel?
do you
How's your
feel?
walk with God?
Yeah.
Here, I kind
How
of
is your devotions? Do you feel the presence of God?
well, I know what they say is right. It's just that I have some kind of a barrier that I can't get through, and I
Yeah, yeah.
need guidance.
And again, like I said, that's fair. It is not fair if I say I genuinely don't care about how you feel. You do as I say, right? That would be generally invalid. Although there are times where I will be strict. I genuinely don't care how you feel. This is something good. This is something true. This is something you must do. But this is a different case because it's not about something you must do or not do. It's you as a person, right? Which doesn't just consist of your intellectual makeup. And so I genuinely, I guess, feel that because, looking back, maybe reminiscing, a good chunk of my conversation starters with people are, what do you think? And yeah, so it is ironic how that kind of creates the culture, right? And if you're in a charismatic circle, it's like, how do you feel? But in a reform culture, it's how do you think? What do you think? Um, Now, I think there is room for us to actually learn to say, hey, never mind the answer, never mind the ABCs, never mind the logic. What do you feel, right? Because sometimes it could be the feeling is, I know I have to do this, but it makes me really angry. I know I have to do this, and that kind of drives me insane, right? And if we kind of don't create a space for that, we're kind of no different than the non-believers when we say, well, you're all you are is your uh, you know brain makeup, all you are is your genetic makeup. People have emotions. Those are actually the thing that other how to say other animals, animals and things not made in the image of God don't necessarily have, right? Creativity, emotions, all those things, those are, I would argue, communicable attributes of God, because God expresses them, right? If it's bad, God would not even remotely engage in it. But the fact that the infinite, sovereign, all-knowing God says sometimes he relents, he is sorrowful, he is angry, immediately makes it valid because he decides that he expresses those things. He reveals to us that he feels, quote unquote. I won't be dogmatic about the use of the word feel, but he expresses himself in those terms that he has anger, that he has justice, that he has um, desires. Now, ontologically speaking, I would say God does not have passions. In other words, he does not like one thing more than the other, right? He doesn't. His justice doesn't beat his mercy. His love doesn't beat his hatred. God is not just the sum of his parts. He is all parts of himself.
At
So,
once.
yeah, yeah, all at once. So again, uh, without committing too much heresy, as a reformer, I'm literally already careful with my wording, and I probably already broke some rules. But yeah, emotions, right? They're valid because God expresses Himself. He reveals Himself to, quote unquote, go through those things. So I think it's valid to kind of care, and I'm actually kind of glad that, because you said, oh, it's slightly inhospitable because he never asked about how you feel. And my first presentation with you, for you to witness, was hospitality.
Yeah.
Did I basically say caring for people, right? The fact that the Messiah is told to not crush the bruised reed. He will not quench the faint flame.
Maybe it was divine.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah. It
Yeah.
definitely
Hey.
is. It definitely is. And again, if anything, I think it's a blessing because I had to learn hospitality, and God blesses me with friends who gets a good impression out of that. So, yeah, I'm again glad that those things are the case. Like I said when I started this episode, I kind of don't know how to end this episode, but it's fine. Um, I'm just wondering, you yourself, would you perhaps look forward to join a Reformed church, or would it be a dreadful thing if you see other Reformed people? Basically, I'm asking your perception of Reformed people now. Now that you've met all these different people, some good, some bad impression, are you looking forward to meet more? Are you even interested in delving more into the theology now that you've seen the people who believe it, who say they believe it, right? How
Actually,
about yeah,
actually, now that I encounter a person like Marco, like a reformed person, like face to face, like close to, like, yeah, more face to face than me meeting my advisors when I was in
right,
high
right.
school.
Mm-hmm.
That I can see like the hospitable side of the the reform, and but just a side note, am interested in joining the congregation just for the hymns. I like the hymns.
Right, yeah.
Eh,
And that's fine, right? You can also say what you really like from the, maybe the reform culture, because it could be, yeah, hymns. We got Isaac Watts. Everyone always sings Isaac Watts on Christmas. Uh, oh no, well, Joy to the World. There you go. The no one knows that they're singing a reform song, but it's a reform song. So it's a post millennial song. So yeah, but anyway, that's for you. Was there anything else? If not, maybe Grace can give
no,
hers. Yeah.
that's it.
Mm, I guess I'm not against like I mean I'm open to that to the idea of like visiting a reformed church,
Right.
um, delving into the theology that part. I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need time,
And yeah,
maybe.
and I think it's valid.
You need to go for the Christology classes, all the conferences.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
You need to take this course, get this certificate, and then only you can go.
I think it's valid, right? There was one thing that somewhat angered me when the authors of this book kind of did an interview. There was an interview with Pastor Samuel Neeson.
Explain
With
international.
yeah, yeah,
Just shout them out like
yeah, yeah.
so publicly.
They did an okay interview.
Is he gonna see it?
I don't know. I'll give it to him, but
Sorry, Pastor Samuel. I love you.
okay. But anyway,
Good, good.
um, it kind of angered me because he said, "Oh, we had to make this book short because Malaysian people really cannot get it one." And I'm like, hold on. Number one, you just straight up disrespected your audience. You just straight up said their brain is 99 pages. Like, I'm sorry. That's just like
Wait, actually?
I
not
think that's
not
the
in the
first episode.
not
That's
in
the
the
first one.
not in the book. One of the author did an interview.
The first episode of that podcast.
Yeah.
Explain
Yeah.
international. You can go check it
But
out.
here's the thing. I can grant one thing.
Yeah.
And Reformed theology is intimidating. The amount of, and here's the thing. I hope you don't take it the bad way, obviously. The bad way you can present it is basically saying, look at the amount of books you have to read just to understand one concept in Reformed theology. But the impression that I wish to leave with all of you actually is you can always come to me with any topic under the sun and I'll have something for you. Right? Which is a more encouraging presentation because I am basically saying the depth of Christian knowledge is limitless. It is literally untapped, relatively. And the fact that the reformers are hardworking to constantly dig that well, that's what you want, right?
Yes.
You don't want the Christianity that's like, oh, but what about politics? We'll pray about it. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Well, here's a 99-page excerpt,
Yeah.
and it's as if Christianity has not taught through political theory and
Like,
education and
for
all
the
those
past
things
few hundred years.
for the past 1500 years, for the past 6,000 years that humanity has existed. God has forgotten about politics. He didn't reveal a single
Yeah.
thing about politics. Right? Not true. So I can grant there's an intimidating aspect, and I definitely would encourage other reform people to not harp on people if they're like, this is really scary. The terminology themselves kind of baffle me. I've never heard some of these words. We understand that, and we kind of have to make space for that, right? And that's kind of our job as teachers to swallow all that theology, package it so that the person who is fixing bikes, who wants to sell bread, who wants to do basic human, you know, uh, culture making or just marketplace stuff solvable, because theology is for everyone. And if, as a reformer, I believe theology is for everyone, that means I should be able to make it as digestible and as bulky as I need it to be. Right? That's literally what for everyone means. So that hopefully becomes an encouragement. And again, um, the the kind of vibe, I guess, that I wish to transfer is more of, there's definitely no topic under the sun that we cannot cover, because that's how rigorous we are at our study, and that's passion, that's pathos, and that's basically what you were talking about, the fact that, hey, I don't want to care about that,
Yeah.
but my presentation of it was so convincing that you're like, oh, Christianity talks about this, I want this now.
Yeah.
Right? I expand my palate.
Yes.
I'm suddenly, my diet suddenly is more diverse
Oh yeah.
because of it.
From
Yeah.
a fisherman to a tax collector to a to shep was
To
it
a
a shepherd?
king, to a
Yeah.
shepherd, to
Yeah.
just any
Oh yeah.
walk of life.
To a
Yeah.
no, from a carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah.
yeah.
But do you have anything else
Oh
to
yeah.
say?
Whether I am down to explore deeper into Reformed theology and all that. Oh, yes, definitely. One of the greatest things about one of the greatest benefits upon meeting Reformed perspectives. Like you said, I can come to you with any topic under the sun. One of the best thing is uh my view of the world, my understanding of reality and all that has expanded tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have never knew, I never knew the depth to which, uh, uh, how to say, I never knew the depth to which God's wonder
Right. Mm-hmm.
expanded to. So
Yeah.
it's like, huh, there's so much more, there's so much more beauty, there's so much more wonder that I can
Right.
pursue about God. And you know what? Uh, on this journey of seeking His face and all that, it's like, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely keen on doing it. However, I am very, very not keen on doing it at the cost of my family
Right.
and
Right.
my loved
Yeah.
ones and the ones who I break bread with
Yeah.
and
And
all that.
basically, yeah.
So if it ever comes down to, I would like, I'm like referring to a few people. Oh, just come to my church, man. Oh, just do this. Do that.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not keen on uprooting.
Right. Right. Right.
That I am to honor my father and my mother, that it will be well with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and pursue His wonder
Yeah.
whilst at it. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm down, but I'm not down to give up
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
For it.
So actually, I think that's what churches actually need to make space for,
Yes.
right? If you have a quote unquote reformer in your church, or your reformed church that has a charismatic in your midst,
Mm.
don't bully them. Don't tell them to uproot. Don't tell them to leave.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You want them. They can actually genuinely be a blessing in your midst, right? It's a different case if they say, well, convictionally, I really can't serve here anymore. Okay, then let them go. But you need to make the space for them to grow theologically. It's your faith. There is a historic definition of it. There is the right way. But if our insistence is they need to discover it, make it their own.
If the insistence is my way or no way,
Right.
I'm
Then
sorry,
yeah.
but
Then
no,
if you're
no.
telling them, no, you can't have your way, we gotta spoon feed it to you,
Oh yeah.
then they'll leave the faith. And which is kind of what happens a lot of times.
Not really. More so, my hunger will die.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. You get starved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is not a good state for the Christian. And I think another good thought you mentioned was the fact that, oh yeah, the depth of it,
Yes.
right? Which is actually
I
it
never
applies.
knew it extended that deep.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
applies to everyone, reformed or
Literally,
charismatic
yeah,
or not.
literally every
Yeah.
aspect of life.
Yeah, we can't just keep giving our children this like truncated theology about God dying for you because He loves
Oh
you.
yeah. So
Right, that's not.
charismatics, they teach you to seek His face and whatnot, but it's a very open statement. You're like,
Yeah,
nice. Now look to heaven. You
Yeah.
know, it's like,
but yeah,
but now you're like, wait a minute, look around.
yeah,
you know?
but please teach me.
Yes.
What does it look like to love my neighbor when I'm selling and when I'm renting my lawnmower to them?
Yes.
Right? What does it look like to?
Even when I'm loaning them money, this
Yeah,
and that. Yeah.
we need to learn that, and
Yes.
we pretend like, oh, if we do that, we're not caring for your heart and your spirit and your. No. That's
Yeah.
my heart bleeds out from my fingertip, right? The way I treat my neighbor is how my heart is
Oh, yeah.
with my neighbor. So, those are the kind of things, practical, theological, all those things
Mm.
are mixed together. We can't, right? And if we're literally gonna do this until eternity, right? We're not gonna stop loving neighbor in heaven. We're not gonna stop taking dominion in heaven, right? If we're gonna do this for an eternity, we better hope there is an eternity of things to expect, because we would hate if we run out of stuff to explore and take dominion over.
There's
And
always
then-
alcohol. You know.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that's very interesting. Quick final ending though. Can I have everyone's eyes bowed and everyone's head closed? And do you want to accept John Calvin as your Lord and Savior?
Oh, do you want to accept Benny Hinn as the Holy Spirit? Dang.
Yeah. No, that was just a quirky joke that I kind of made. I kind of have a small passage that I want to bring up. It's actually 1 Corinthians 10:16. It's where Paul says, "Is this bread that we break, is it not partaking in his flesh? Is it not partaking in his one body?" And the word communion, the word partaking, there is koinonia, which is used in secular Greek to describe marriage. Literally the most intimate human relationship we could ever have. Now, this is not about just sacrament. Granted, the passage is about sacrament. But I am talking generally about a vision of Christian unity. Christian unity is important, right? One of the first document in Christian history is something called the Didache, which is probably early 2nd century. And there's a saying that goes, "As many grains of wheat were gathered from the hillside to form this loaf, so may we be gathered into your kingdom." And so they genuinely believe even the forming of the bread, that's how we are knit together, regardless of whatever your denomination is. So I'm glad that we can bond over all the things that are correct, that is gospel truth, but is also expansive. It's also dominion taking and all those things. And I hope that, again, this doesn't become a you're Reform, that's your camp, you're Pentecostal, that's your camp. When we talk to each other, that was never the dynamic.
Oh yeah.
We shouldn't limit ourselves.
Yeah. And I would hate that if any party, right, makes it feel like that. When I talk to you, the dynamic is straight up, you're not me, and I'm not you. And that would be, again, very toxic, very against what the Lord taught us for things like the sacrament and the Eucharist, right? Which is something we should be able to partake in together. So, again, I like the discourse, I like disagreement and all those things, but those things should indeed be done in love and not contrasted to unity, right? We also don't like uniformity, how everyone looks the same, talks the same, because guess what? Uniformity is not unity. Just because you and I talk the exact same, do things the exact same way, doesn't actually show unity. That's
Yeah.
not what unity looks like. The coolest thing, I forgot who taught this or who presented it this way, but Adam had his rib, and then the rib was taken away from him, forms Eve, and then they become one flesh. Shall we say that Adam has more unity with his rib than he does with Eve? And the answer is no. He has more unity with Eve than he does with his rib. But funny thing, his rib is his literal body. Eve is literally someone else, someone completely different. And yet we're told there's greater unity when the two different, completely different thing comes together, right? If that's not the vision of Christian unity we can have, then I'm afraid we kind of have to start from scratch, right? So diversity actually should be a touted feature. It's not a bad thing. No. So yeah, that's kind of how I would end it. There's really no better way.
Yeah.
Other than you giving your life to our Lord and Savior, John Calvin.
Yeah.
I'll end with
and you
a-
admitting that Mike Winger died on the cross for you.
Mike Winger is not Reformed, actually.
I know, that's why.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I think he's charismatic, right?
Yes, that's why I'm saying it.
That's hilarious. Okay, I got it now. I guess I'll end with a quick book review. Not book review. What am I talking about? Book endorsement. Yeah.
Oh.
There's MCTC, more Calvinistic than Calvin. I really can't recommend this. I'm sorry. You guys, I have a lot of respect from you because you're my elders. Hua Yung, Li Sutian, Li Tadian, and Lim Karyong. You guys need to really respect your audience. You really can't get away with saying, "Oh, we can only fit 99 page." Reformed theology has existed for 500 plus years. It deserves more than just 99 page, right? And if you don't think it deserves more than 99 page, then don't write a single one because you're.
Do you think they're gonna watch this?
I don't know, but I'm saying this out of respect, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So
with love, with love,
yeah, yeah, with love. If you don't believe that it deserves 99 page, then write nothing because it should not be within your rear view mirror even. So, but I would recommend this one instead. If you are gonna read this more Calvinistic than Calvin, I would encourage you to read Ecumenical Agenda. Beware of the Ecumenical Agenda by Pastor Poh Boon-Sing as well. And for the audience in YouTube, I'm gonna put a link in the description to my friend Calvin Chia's dissertation, his thesis. What do you call them? Survey. He has a thesis survey on what non-reforms think of reformed churches. So if you fill them out, it'll really help his dissertation. It's literally his thesis, and hopefully he gets a big enough pool so he can judge better. And for the reformed people, please don't bomb fill the survey and make you sound the best. Yeah, he probably can tell and just filter your choices out. But anyway, that's kind of the end of the episode. This has been Kingdom Cast. Signing off. Cheers, guys. With our empty beer can.
Cheers.
All right.